Okay, so we've got everybody in.
Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you. Dan, I can see you.
And I can see everybody, so it's a beautiful thing.
Okay.
Wonderful.
So I just put some chips in my mouth because I'm drinking Chardonnay. Dan's going to be like looking through the window and suggesting something that I should try with the wines that he's tasting. So I'm going to do the eating and he's going to do the talking.
I'm going to do the talking about the wine and its personality and all those wonderful things. And then Karen's going to frantically try and find some food to go with it. And
Karen looks through the window and gives me advice on all of the things on my table.
Anyway.
Oh, okay. Oh, by the way, Dan, I like the scruffy look you got going on.
Hey, COVID, baby.
It looks good. I like it.
Well, you know, if the wine tour thing doesn't materialize over the summer, I'm going to be a Santa's helper in the fall.
That's kind of how it works. Okay, you ready? We're coming in.
We're
ready?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. We have people joining. Hello, people.
Try with a Cabernet Franc because Cabernet Franc is my favorite go-to wine. We call it Cab Franc here, and everyone kind of laughs when we say that. All the wine, you know, the wine snobs, as we call them, come in and go, "Why are you calling Cabernet Franc Cab Franc?" Well, there's a darn good reason for that. Our grower and one of our partners here is named Frank DeLevac. The property that we grow on, the acreage here on our farm, was Frank's. He grew tobacco there and then transitioned to growing grapes for us. So we named this wine after Frank. And we had to get special dispensation from BQA in order to change the name from Franc to Frank. And we did. And they allowed us to do that. And so we call it Cab Franc. And I think that Cab Franc is a beautiful tasting with this like melty, it's now melty in my hand, dark chocolate turbo with salt.
Now, while Karen's enjoying that dark chocolate, let me talk about our other Cabernet Franc, which we call Kiln Winery. So here's the difference. They're both estate wines. All the grapes are grown here. And the difference between Cab Franc and Kiln Hanger, this spends about 5 days in our tobacco kilns to dry the grapes and concentrate the flavors before we press them, and about a year in oak. Kiln Hanger spent 3 weeks in those tobacco kilns, deeply concentrating the flavors and building up the residual sugars, and then almost 3 years in oak. So big, bold, just a beautiful, beautiful Amarone style wine, but both exquisite wines. And Captain.
So I think, like, I'm just going to jump in here, Dan, because I think we're throwing a lot of terms around that maybe we just need to take a little bit of a step back and explain what a passamento style wines are. So I heard you say Amarone, which comes from Italy. So that means that in Italy, they take their grapes and they put them on straw mats and they dry them down a little bit before they press them. So if you can imagine, if you left grapes on your counter for 2 weeks, what would happen? Like they start to shrivel up, and if you tasted them, you would notice that the sugars were concentrating and that they would become sweet. We don't leave them like drying as long as that become raisins, but they have a little wrinkly around them. In order for us to do that, we cheat a little bit. We don't have that much sunshine like they do in Italy, so we use tobacco kilns. Not those old school barns that you kind of see as you're driving around Norfolk, but if you saw those big, long, white kilns, they look like long sheds, and they're white. That's what they used to dry tobacco. So we've converted those. That's what they used to dry tobacco. So we've converted those from drying tobacco into drying grapes. And this was an idea of Cab Franc's, that he would find a way to dry down those grapes for us using those kilns and repurposing them for grapes. And so he successfully did that. We took the heaters out. We just blow air over top. So a passamento, meaning the air passes over. And you know, a few years ago, we won a Premier's Award for Ontario for agri-innovation for that idea. So, I mean, farmers are crazy inventors. And I think Frank did an amazing job, you know, coming up with that idea. So when Dan tells you that those grapes have been in the kiln for like 2 weeks. The reason that we're doing that is we're harvesting them, and we're getting a certain amount of bricks, which is fancy schmancy wine talk for sugar levels. We're harvesting at one sugar level and trying to get it up a little bit higher. Well, what we know about that is that our wines are not sweet. Well, sure, we have some that are sweet, but the more that you ferment them down, so you introduce yeast to that sugar, that yeast eats up that sugar, and what happens? It converts to alcohol. And so some of our wines that have been through that appassimento process, well, they have a bit of a kick, don't they, Dan?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, we're talking about like 16% alcohol, which is about the highest that you can get to be a wine. Once you get higher than that in alcohol content, it becomes a port or a sherry or something else. So, yeah. So if you have one glass of this red wine and you're like, why do I feel like a little tipsy on one glass of wine? You know that it's different than that Grigio you've been drinking, which was probably around 11%. Handing it over to you, Dan.
Exactly. And
All right. Well, welcome to our strip room. As Ashley's behind the camera here, you can see that there's lots of barrels behind us. Here at Burning Kiln, other than Pinot Grigio and Riesling, we oak everything, and we oak it right in this room. Karen mentioned before that this was an original tobacco pack barn, and every tobacco pack barn had a room like this, because at the end of harvest, what they would do is they'd take the dried tobacco leaves out of the kilns, they'd take them off the stick they were sewn onto, they'd grade them by quality, and then they'd bale them to ship them to market. It was a really dusty job, so they always had a separate room to do it. But the whole process was called stripping. So hence, this was the strip room. Actually, if you were a kid growing up in the 80s in Norfolk County, you'd go to way to school in the city, and about the second week of October, you'd have to tell your new friends from the city, I'm sorry, I gotta go stripping for a couple of weeks. Or worse, I gotta go help mom strip. If you're from here, everybody knows what you mean, but that's stripping. So we call this our strip room. You can see all our barrels are here. What's happening in the barrels is there's solids that are floating around in those in the barrels called lees. And the lees, I always think in terms of cooking. So you know when you're sauteing something in a heavy pan, you get the brown bits at the bottom of the pan. That's where all the flavor is. Think of lees as the brown bits. All the flavors circulating through here and transferring the flavor to the wine. At the end of about 8 weeks, the lees will all settle down to the bottom of the barrel, and our winemaker has some choices. They can do what's called bâtonnage, which is bad French for sticking a whisk in there and stirring up the lees to getting them floating again. They can add more lees from another barrel. They can add lees from a whole different grape to that barrel, and it's all done by taste.
so you've seen where the wine is produced, and people can't believe that we're producing the finest quality wine that we are in this tobacco pack barn, but this is our only production facility, and it is a happening place. Karen told me that before I left, I had to tell you about my experiences here at Burning Kiln and the tours that I do here, because that's what I do. I love people, I love to meet people. I'm missing people as I get my energy off of meeting all of you and showing you the wonderful things that we do here. But being a tour guide experience here at Burning Kiln, it comes with a lot of interesting things that happen to you over the year. And I have to relate one story that happened last summer. We get an awful lot of bachelorette parties here. You know, and we love girls coming out and doing the wine tour and getting pictures done in the vineyard, and it's a great experience. But I had a group last year, nice girls, dressed nicely, very friendly. How do I put this delicately, Karen? Maybe a little edgier than normal, but we did the tour. We got into the barrel room, and I was explaining about a strip room, what a strip room was, and I told them my little strip room joke. And they said to me, well, we're strippers. And for the first time in my life, I was dumbfounded, completely speechless. So, you know, there's exciting things happening at the winery all the time, but Karen wanted me to share some of the things that go on at the winery after dark as well. So there you go, Karen, that story just for you.
This has been a super fun night, Christine.
And you guys have done a really great job doing your best with this Zoom business here tonight. And, you know, you've really played with what we have. And I think that everyone has really appreciated learning through both of you. And I really hope that at someday soon, we'll be able to get back in the van or in the bus and come back out from KW and visit you as a group or as groups. And I'm really looking forward to being able to do that again. So cheers. Thanks to you for taking your time tonight, guys. Thank you so much. And everybody, thanks again. Have a great night. See you again.
Bye.
Bye, guys.